Louisiana. In New Orleans, Tulane Medical Center braces for the worst. Dr. Bob Ashuto is on call, staying overnight at Tulane. He's jolted awake by the sound of breaking windows.
I went to my door to open it, and it was pulled out of my hand. I felt this force pulling me towards a window that was now broken. And I could see the air currents going out the window along with a fair number of debris that was in the laboratory.
Several colleagues struggled to pull him to safety. The hurricane knocks out the city's power. Hospital emergency generators kick in. Dr. Ashuto heads straight to the intensive care unit.
Well, the hallways were very quiet. There was a calmness that was eerie. Even though outside the building, this horrific storm was going on, inside there was this very strange claustrophobic feeling of warmth, sweating. I actually felt my heart pounding.
Dr. Ashuto is responsible for several critically ill children. If their life support machines fail, they will die. He's relieved to find all his patients unharmed, including Drew Schaff, a newborn baby recovering from heart surgery.
Drew was a very seriously ill infant. She was on a ventilator, was on various heart medications to allow the heart to beat properly.
Drew's parents, Steve and Brandy Schaff, live 200 kilometers away. But they haven't been home since their baby was rushed to hospital more than a week ago.
It was 11 o'clock at night and she was just fussing and fussing, and then she turned bluish gray and stopped breathing, and we rushed her to the hospital.
Before the hurricane struck, all patients' families were asked to leave the hospital.
Okay, well, look, we're not leaving our baby.
Brandy simply refused.
I knew that I was not leaving the baby by herself in a city that I didn't even live in.
Dr. Ashuto's patients and all others on life support have been moved onto the same floor, so staff can watch them constantly. One of the patients most at risk is 15-year-old William Wilson. He depends on a huge machine to keep blood pumping through his body. Without it, he will die within minutes. During the 10 months William's been waiting for a heart transplant, Nurse Jean Graham has become his friend and confidant.
You have rather a thin boy with 4 garden hoses essentially coming out. It was a little science fiction-esque. Hey, gee, it's like a book. If not for that, he was your average 15-year-old boy.
In the light of day, you recall of New Orleans. It looks like the hospital's disaster plan is working. In reality, a bigger and deadlier crisis is unfolding. New Orleans is built on land below sea level. The day Hurricane Katrina reached its landfall, several of the levees protecting the city weakened and then failed. By evening, the flood had closed in At this rate, the generator will be swamped by morning. The hospital's emergency command center is unable to get a response from signal calls. So they call the state emergency center, 130 kilometers away in Baton Rouge. Mel Lagarde, the senior hospital executive, tries to find out whether the state can provide any kind of support or security. Lagarde learns that the entire city is in chaos. There's no help coming. For Tulane Hospital, only one option remains.
Guys, hold on a second.
We need to evacuate. The hospital is forced to organize its own evacuation. With ground routes flooded, the only way out is by air. Staff will have to find a way to fly Drew Shaw, William Wilson, and 19 other critical care patients to safety in the next few hours. By then, the emergency generators will either run out of fuel or be swamped by floodwater. The best bet is Acadian Ambulance Services, more than 200 kilometers away in Lafayette. Acadian's dispatcher alerts the company's flight paramedic, Mark Creswell. Within the hour, Creswell is loading his helicopter with supplies.
It was just something that was a sixth sense that said, bring plenty of clothes, bring a couple of $100 worth of food, bring $700 in cash, and anything else you think you're gonna need for a week, and that's what I did.
Sports bras to women's bras, we had a complicated relationship. And then, their treatment, I asked about Kisqali, a pill that can help reduce my risk of cancer recurrence. Now, I have an understanding about this. Kisqali, an aromatase inhibitor, is for adults with stage 2 and 3, HR positive, HER2 negative, early breast cancer with a high risk of recurrence. Kisqali may cause serious skin reactions, low volumes, and low white blood cell counts, that may result in serious infections. Life-threatening lung problems and abnormal heart rate can occur. Your doctor should test your heart and blood before and during treatment. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening cough, chest pain, or dizziness. Before taking Kisqali, tell your doctor all your medical conditions, medicines you take, and if you're breastfeeding, pregnant, or planning to be, as it can harm an unborn baby. Common side effects include nausea, headache, and tiredness. I'm doing more today to help protect my tomorrow because I'm more than just breast cancer.
But the winds are swirling in 60-kilometer gusts, enough to damage the aircraft upon landing. Even for a veteran pilot, it's just too dangerous to fly.
We knew our primary mission that morning was to evacuate Phoenix. I knew that happened at 8 a.m.
While Mark Creswell sits grounded 200 kilometers away, the water is still rising in New Orleans. Creeping ever closer to the emergency generators on the ground floor of Tulane Hospital. Early Tuesday morning, Senior Executive Mel Lagarde finds out the hospital has to turn off the emergency generators on the ground floor. The rising floodwaters will short-circuit the machines within minutes.
Is there anything else you can do for me? We need at least 2 hours on this.
Yes, do we have any pumps available for us to pump out the water? If
one way left to keep the electricity flowing. Electrical workers fire up a portable generator truck in the street outside. The hospital has rented it in preparation for the hurricane. But if the water keeps rising, this generator will also become submerged. A nurse wakes baby Drew's parents in the middle of the night. More alarming news for Steve and Brandy Shaw. The hospital plans to evacuate their baby without them.
We didn't know they were evacuated at all. She's like, they're good shit food out, see the other people on the block. I had jam full, they brushed their teeth, I sprayed it down there. I was in shock, laying down there and like they explained this to me.
It's not easy to escape the world. I mean, the world is a swimming pool in and of itself. Water came in from the left, there was no way for it to get back out. It's a one-way street.
That's what it is. Nurse June Bray tells William about the evacuation. He tries not to alarm his young patient. William's evacuation will be exceptionally challenging. Doing a specially equipped helicopter with medical equipment and a generator on board. The chopper must be large and powerful enough to accommodate William's 227 kilogram life.
Nelson was on a so-called fiber trigger with the CFRs. That means it's a device that pumps blood from the pumping chamber on the right side, circulates it to the left side as it's oxygenated, and then it's dissolved. The tube comes out of the right side of the spine, into the machine, the tube goes to the main vessel. So his heart simply serves as a reservoir and collects blood from the tissue.
Nurse Bray asks other staff to make sure each patient is evacuated with a 1-week supply of medicine and fluids. He spent 20 years in the Navy. Crisis management is second nature. The medicine dispenser has lost power and can't dispense any drugs. It's time to bend the rules.
What do you think? Break open the machine. Now.
Tulane Hospital is now operating with limited air conditioning and lighting. The generator truck outside can only supply 40% of the hospital's electricity. From now on, only the hospital's emergency red sockets have power. They run the most essential services. One of them is the life support machine keeping Drew alive.
The right near Texas Children's Hospital. Okay, make sure it's okay.
Dr. Ashuko tries to ease the anxiety of parents about to be separated from their children.
I know it's going to be most for sent to the hospital. I think you can work.
The staff come up with a system to make sure that every patient is accounted for once the crisis is over. nurses improvise using simple but effective methods.
They realized that they were in control of the lives of these patients. And they had to do things, not only urgently, but they had to use creativity to accomplish their goal. Their goal was to get the patient out of the hospital. And they used their imagination to the fullest.
When Drew was being prepared for transport, one of the nurses came and she had her camera and she took a picture of all three of us and gave it to us so we could have it to take with us.
By now, floodwaters are threatening the one remaining backup generator outside. Dr. Ashuka and Tulane's staff have been on the phone for hours, calling hospitals outside New Orleans. They're trying to find places for the critical care patients.
SCHAAF. She's posted out for the order of instruction. This kid is really sick. We have to get her out of here now. They'll take her. Dr. Gutierrez of Lafayette Children's.
Ashuka finally finds a place for Drew in a hospital in her hometown of Lafayette. Moving Drew without disturbing her life support equipment will be a delicate and risky job.
I need these two to take secure. Should be fine.
Drew has a large hole between the pumping chambers of her heart, so a band must be placed around her artery to reduce blood flow to the lungs. Because she is in such severe heart failure, she must be intubated. A tube in her trachea enables her to breathe.
In her case, intubation was very difficult because she had abnormal anatomy of her airway. It's always more difficult in a baby, and the smaller the baby, the more difficult the procedure. In her case, she had a compounding factor of abnormal anatomy. So we were very fearful that if her tube came out, we would be in trouble.
In Lafayette, the wind has died down. 3 hours after paramedic Mark Creswell got the call, his air ambulance heads for Tulane Hospital. He's borrowed a critical piece of equipment from a local hospital. He'll need it to evacuate Drew's shop.
I called the nurse at one of the local hospitals, an ICU manager, and I asked for their isolate, which is a form of an incubator with a lot of advanced life support gear, and they were readily able to give that to us, no questions asked.
Creswell flies over New Orleans just after dawn. He's stunned to see the city submerged below.
My first impression of Katrina was, wow, I've never seen anything like this, and how am I going to handle it?
There's no longer any air traffic control regulating flight over New Orleans. The possibility of a mid-air collision is on everyone's mind.
Essentially, we were flying blind. Had to use your eyes and keep an eye out for every aircraft around. There were literally dozens of Coast Guard and military aircraft on the scene.
Creswell finally lands on the garage roof next to Tulane Hospital. He sees that the building is surrounded by almost 2 meters of water.
I knew that as fast as this water was coming up, they weren't going to have power much longer.
For my mom, Paulette. For my mom, Penny.
For my husband, Helmut, honor someone you love by learning the warning signs of stroke.
Stroke can happen to anyone at any age. Be ready to spot the stroke fast.
Nobody knows how quickly the water will rise and just when the generator will flood. Creswell does know he has to get 21 life support patients out of Tulane before the power goes out. Good Lord.
Nice to see you.
Everyone had looked like they had been through a terrorist incident. Their eyes were big. They looked like they had been in this incident for days and days and days. They were obviously scared, and the sense of urgency was real high.
As the flight paramedic, Creswell's in charge of the overall evacuation. But first, he has to decide who gets evacuated in what order. Creswell is asked to fly patients to various hospitals scattered hundreds of kilometers in all directions. He's frustrated. For every long-haul trip to a faraway hospital, his team could be making several shorter trips and evacuating more patients.
So the closer we were able to go, the better it would be to be able to get everyone out.
Morning. Okay. Okay, now, these are the patients we want. Now, we want the sick ones, starting with the littlest, because we have isolates coming in. Now, we want to load as many people as we can, so we need the sick, little ones, matched with adults that can monitor themselves. No parents, no riders. We're going to get this all done before you lose power.
It's an ambitious evacuation. Creswell will have to juggle an enormous amount of information. Who's the sickest? What does each patient weigh? Which rescue helicopter is equipped to carry them? He quickly decides which of the infants is top priority. He's picked Drew Sharp.
She was a very sick kid. I didn't know all the details, but I knew she was sick. You could see a big, huge surgical scar down her chest, lots of IV tubings on her, lots of bandages, and I knew that she was a priority. This was the first kid we needed to get out and get her out now.
Staff prepared to move Drew from her hospital bed into the special portable incubator.
She was awake for the first time since her surgery, and so I was like, great, she's starting to wake up, and I'm gonna put her in a little incubator in a helicopter and send her back.
Moving Drew is complicated and risky. If her breathing tube is accidentally knocked out during transport, she will die within 5 to 10 minutes. A respiratory specialist ensures that the tube is perfectly placed in her tiny trachea to minimize movement. Drew's heart also depends on life-saving medicine. After the transfer to the incubator, Drew's team monitors her oxygen saturation, heart rate, temperature, and respiration rate.
Hello. What's up?
They watch closely to make sure her skin color
They're
stays healthy.
chilling.
The slightest tinge
Yep.
of blue means immediate intervention.
What's
I
up?
actually live for those last few minutes before they took her.
Nah, you can wait till tomorrow.
I was a mess. I was
Yeah, just
crying.
call me tomorrow. Bye.
Get ourselves together, let's help out however we can. Just get your mind off it, know your baby girl's gonna be fine, we're gonna get you out of here. And so she held up really well.
After 5 minutes, Drew is considered stable. Now she can be transported to the helicopter. Getting to the makeshift helipad will be a journey in itself. Drew will have to be transported from the hospital's 4th floor down to the 2nd floor. enter an elevated walkway that links the hospital to the parking garage next door. Then up another 6 floors to the garage roof. The elevator is the smoothest way to carry Drew down 2 floors. But as the rescue team enters, the door suddenly jams. Then slams shut before Brandy can get back in.
I like freaked out because, oh my God, they're in the elevator. I'm not going to be able to see Drew again. And the nurses start, it's okay, we're going to get her out. We're going to get out, we're going to get to you. It'll be okay. And the guy that was standing on the side of me, just helping me pull the doors open, and everybody got out.
They decide it's too risky to use the elevator.
We're gonna make those questions.
They're forced to carry Drew in her 91-kilogram incubator down 2 flights of stairs. Steve isn't happy, but he knows they have no choice.
The floors were sweating because they had lost AC, so very slippery. Lights were flashing from the emergency lights trying to come on and off. Air was just really stale, and it was, just kind of like something seen in a movie.
The team strains to keep the incubator perfectly balanced. The tiniest misstep, the most minuscule shift, could dislodge Drew's breathing tube.
Bringing Drew down the stairs in the incubator on the stretcher was very nerve-wracking. Knowing if we just, rock it or do anything wrong with it, ventilator down her throat kind of scared me.
It takes Drew's team more than 20 minutes just to get down 2 flights of stairs. Drew isn't out of danger yet. As they enter the raised walkway, the reality of their situation hits home.
When I came downstairs and walked across, I saw the water in the street. What really got my attention was the generators that were sitting outside. The water was coming up to the bottom of the generators on parking 18-wheel trailers. And I knew that Drew was the only person on the ventilator at that time, and if they would lose electricity, I was kind of getting scared.
Drew's parents and her medical team managed to transport her as far as the parking garage next to the hospital. They head for the makeshift helipad on the garage roof.
I just had to take a big gulp. I mean, just a little bit of fear just crept in. I was like, wow, this is pretty serious.
It takes them almost an hour to get Drew from her hospital bed to the waiting helicopter. One of the pilots suggests that Drew and another baby double up in the incubator to speed up the evacuation. But Drew's nurse recognizes the other child. It's another close call for baby Drew. Drew will travel with her nurse, but without her parents.
I'm sorry, I can't take you with her. There's just no room.
Mark Creswell can't tell Brandy when she'll be able to see her baby again.
I'll get you there.
It was gut wrenching. I mean, there's nothing you can do because they're taking your baby away from you again.
15-year-old William Wilson is still trapped at Tulane. Staff are trying to find a way to evacuate him along with his 227-kilogram life support machine. So far, they've not been able to find a big enough helicopter. It's hard to believe that things could get any worse. But now the hospital is battling more than Mother Nature. Looters are trying to force their way in.
It was like that down in the Mississippi River.
They were just looking to steal stuff at that point. It wasn't, like you need diapers for your child, it was a TV or a piece of plywood.
I know many of us were very angry about what was going on in the streets and what we were witnessing. We were ashamed. I was ashamed. I couldn't believe this was going on in our country.
Outsiders are trying to sneak in through the parking garage. Police rush to keep them out.
There was always the assumption that people needed their fix, the people that were addicted to medicine. So that could have been a reason to break into the hospital. They also saw helicopters coming and going. They saw it as a means of rescue also, maybe.
All the while, Mark Creswell keeps the evacuation moving.
It was very exhilarating to see an individual wheeled up to a waiting helicopter, a critically ill child, placed on the helicopter, safely evacuated. And each time a child left, people would applaud.
He's directing pilots and helicopters from Louisiana and out of state as they land on the roof of the parking garage.
How much fuel you got left? How much wood can you take on this thing?
Creswell doesn't know how each helicopter is equipped until they actually land. That means he can't plan ahead. He's forced to figure out on the spot which patient leaves next based on mental calculation.
You don't need a man of work?
Then he determines the most efficient use of each helicopter.
Get me a deal that all the men and the nurses need to go to Lafayette or Alexandria now.
Evacuation isn't going as quickly as Creswell would like. Only 3 to 4 helicopters at a time are allowed on the garage roof. It takes roughly an hour to move 2 patients. By 3 p.m., they've evacuated 13 patients on life support. Creswell uses a
Good evening, I'm Carol Dan. Lessons of Hurricane Katrina coming up in just a moment, but first, these are the latest developments in Mission Critical. Today, National Guard troops went door to door in New Orleans searching for survivors as well as bodies. And when a corpse is found, its location is recorded with a global positioning device and paint on the outside of the houses. And they're beginning to clean up the destruction among the waterfront casinos in Mississippi. Thousands of people worked at the dozens of casinos and hotels along the coast. The rebuilding process is picking up steam. Mississippi's governor has appointed a commission to get elected officials and business leaders and developers talking to one another. And this is a precious commodity right now among hurricane evacuees. FEMA says the $2,000 debit cards it's been handing out to storm victims are in short supply. They're now only available to people staying at major shelters in Texas, and even that will end today. Other evacuees who found their own housing can get the money in a form of a check or a direct deposit from a bank account, but they've got to fill out a lot of paperwork. And while the Gulf Coast tries to cope with the effects of Katrina, parts of the southeastern U.S. are under a new hurricane watch. CNN meteorologist Jackie Jarrett standing by the CNN Weather Center. Jackie.
Carol, it'll probably still be a couple of days before it really likely makes landfall. It's kind of drifting away from the coast, believe it or not. Today is now about 255 miles away from Charleston, South Carolina. We do expect that it will be taking a turn back towards the coast. That probably won't happen maybe for another 24 hours or so. Here's the watch that you mentioned from the Savannah River sitting up towards Cape Lookout. That means hurricane conditions are possible within 36 hours. Forecast track has it making landfall
Katrina slams into the Gulf Coast, leaving in its wake chaos, indiscriminate devastation, and many unanswered questions. Tonight, an examination of America's response to catastrophe.
Plans were on paper, the plans were not understood, and most of all, the plans were not executed.
There'll be ample time for people to figure out what went right and what went wrong. What I'm interested is helping save lives.
What were the missteps, and will they happen again?
Fundamentally, nobody pulled the trigger on the resources that could have been there.
Is the government ready for civil disorder in the midst of tragedy?
You have to come in with a show of force as quickly as we can. Got a lot of problems with people firing at us at night and trying to leave.
What's the plan if there's another national disaster?
There's a threat to our assets. Deadly use of force is authorized.
Tonight, in the CNN Security Watch special, is America prepared? Lessons of Hurricane Katrina.
Good evening, I'm Jean Meserve. 4 years after 9/11, after the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, this country is in the midst of yet another incomprehensible catastrophe, not at the hands of terrorists, but nature. What Hurricane Katrina did to coastal Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama is a nightmarish calamity, compounded by what critics call a sluggish response, full of missed opportunities that could have saved lives. Some say emergency preparedness models often go to extremes, but are officials learning what they should? With recovery efforts expected to take years, if not decades, the aftermath of the storm and the debate.
Jimmy John's finally has chosen sandwiches.
All right, back to our top story. The federal government filing hate crime charges against the man accused of carrying out yesterday's terror attack in Boulder, Colorado. Let's bring in Jonathan Turley now, constitutional law professor and a Fox News contributor. All of us are just sick to our stomachs over this horrendous attack, Jonathan, and now we're learning brand new details, as you just heard with the White House press secretary on moments ago. They found 14 unlit Molotov cocktails at his side in his car. With
Matthew, one of the negotiations that's still on the run, posting videos on social media, and now you have officials in our parishes, running parishes, telling him to turn himself in.
Antoine Massey, one of two men still on the run, pleads his case in different versions of 10-minute long social media videos.
I'm showing y'all the whole world how corrupted the state of Louisiana is.
Were you a small business?
Mistakes. You know, I don't say mistakes. I was just young. You know what I'm saying? But the system has a lot of people, not just me.
Meanwhile, his pastor, Robert Brown, returned to custody.
Turn yourself in. Care about your family.
Deputy U.S. Marshal Ron Taylor says authorities are now thoroughly investigating the videos in hopes of locating Massey. Metropolitan Crime Commission CEO Rafael Boinetti says the videos could provide clues to help law enforcement locate Massey.
Those videos and the social media sites that he posted those on, are going to contain metadata that will enable law enforcement to determine who posted them, on what platform, using what devices.
In the videos, Massey specifically calls on President Donald Trump, Kim Kardashian, and multiple rappers for help as he maintains his innocence. He also claims battery case he was booked with at the time of his escape was filed by a jealous girlfriend. During the videos, he shows an affidavit his alleged victim filed with St. Tammany authorities. Goyeneche says the paperwork could be proof that the woman, who has been arrested in connection with helping Massey evade law enforcement, has assisted him. Massey also calls Louisiana's legal system corrupt, specifically calling out local authorities in the videos.
Jason Williams, Susan House and the sheriff, St. Tammany, these people are racist. These people are biased. These people just know whatever they want to do and I'm asking for help, please, before they throw me away for something that I did not do.
District Attorney Jason Williams declined an interview Monday. St. Tammany District Attorney Colin Sims said only that he hopes Massey turns himself in. Sheriff Susan Hudson issued this statement. If the individual depicted in the video is indeed Antoine Massey, we strongly urge him to come forward and turn himself in to the proper authorities. Cooperating with law enforcement is in his best interest and may help avoid additional charges. It is important that justice is served appropriately and that due process is followed. Massey also specifically calls out Sterling Williams, a maintenance worker accused of turning off the water in the cell from which Massey and 9 others escaped May 16th.
Like they try to paint a picture of me as this big old bad guy who I'm very Sterling to be this man. How did I do it, bro? You can't even come around me without a deputy being on the tip.
Williams' attorney, Michael Kennedy, responds.
For them to get up there on social media and call her on the wire when I have already been up there saying, this is not what we are saying happened. I presume he is just going straight from the arrest affidavit.
Brown says he's hoping Massey will call him and that he can help him surrender safely. If not for him, for the peace of mind of his family.
If you care about him, won't you turn yourself in?
And authorities urge anyone with information about the whereabouts of Massey or Derek Rose, the other escapees still on the run, to call Crime Stoppers at 504-822-1111. The reward for any tip that leads to their arrest is up to $50,000 per fusion.
Neutrogena's Hydro Boost Water Gel is the secret I just couldn't keep because everyone deserves skin this juicy and hydrated. Available at Walmart now.
What makes a life a good one?
Gallups insider in the maintenance department says that the worker arrested in connection with the escape, the wrong part.
WDSU investigative reporter Cassie Sherm spoke with a former jail supervisor who says the real danger lies behind the walls and when it gets this over 3 years. 10 inmates involved in a jailbreak, breaking into a cell and breaking out through a pipe behind a toilet, vanishing out a door and out into the city, leaving a clear message on the walls.
This is just like taunting, you know. When you taunt me, so I know they take the time out to say, okay, let me draw this on the wall. They have plans.
Charles Reed, who worked inside the jail for years as the jail's former maintenance supervisor, left just last year. He says what he saw in the facility was barely holding itself together.
Oh, absolutely. Understaffed again. You know, you need more plumbers than you probably need most of the other staff because they always get a lot of plumbers.
Jail officials say the escape route led through a cell where inmates reportedly removed an ADA-compliant toilet and and Reed says that's been a known vulnerability for years.
Once you get past the opaque that's around the end there, where you can get back behind there and register, you got all the time in the world. Just take it there, and then you can just go.
WDS investigates obtaining work orders in the last year for cells on different floors with the same type of toilets.
While we rip these things off the wall, or while we tearing these fixtures up.
That should be a pretty big red flag.
Oh, yeah, maybe after 3 or 4, things cost at least about 6, 7, 8 grand. They're not cheap.
And Reed says the inmates had knowledge on how to do it.
You're gonna say, oh, that's how you install that, at least take it off the wall. Yeah, so it's good for that these people be on lockdown while you're doing work, or they be out of the cell while you're working. But of course, that wasn't taking place.
Sterling Williams, a maintenance worker accused of turning off the water to help the escapees, now faces criminal charges. Law enforcement records allege one inmate threatened to shank him if he didn't turn off the water. But according to Williams' attorney, that wasn't the case.
That is a complete mischaracterization by law enforcement. He wasn't acting out of fear. He was taking this as normal jailhouse banter.
Reed says that any claim of turning off the water would help the escape doesn't hold water.
In the cell, you have to push that button off for you to get water. So what did they told the braided line off there or not, the water would have kept running. Him turning the water off would not assist in him escape.
Do you think Sterling is being used as a scapegoat?
Absolutely.
Reed says that's coupled with years of ignored maintenance warnings.
We had a lot of electrical issues. They were housing inmates in the interview room. The voltage that was in there was 277. We had inmates, they was tapping with the electrical that was in the interview room.
And WDS investigates found just 8 days before the escape, inmates were already messing with the cell's locks. A work order stating that door had to be unjammed because it was stuffed with hardened toilet paper.
Stuff in trash, paper, boxes, whatever they may have.
Could they do this again?
Honestly, yes, you have to do the maintenance and upkeep the building. I mean, it's imperative.
In New Orleans, I'm Cassie Sherlin, WDS investigates.
The sheriff's office responded to this story saying, quote, "This matter further highlights Sheriff Hudson's continued advocacy for additional funding and resources to implement improvements. However, when it comes to the investigation into Sterling Williams, the sheriff's office will no longer be commenting."
Sizzle Court and Disney's Lilo and Stitch now playing only in theaters.
Doesn't get very far these days, does it? Everybody treats me like I'm worthless. Absolutely.
Let out the Jason.
17 days after 10 men scaled a jailhouse fence to freedom at the Orleans Justice Center, Antoine Massey, one of 2 men still on the run, leads his case in social media videos. Good evening, I'm Meg Gatto.
And I'm Lauren McCoy. A law enforcement source tells Foxy investigators believe it is Massey in the videos and that they are actively looking into them. Jackie Tillett shares more on Massey's message.
Lauren, Meg, Antoine Massey pleads his case on social media, calling on President Donald Trump, Kim Kardashian, and multiple rappers for help as he maintains his innocence. Now, Massey claims the domestic abuse battery case he was booked with was filed by a jealous girlfriend. Massey called the state of Louisiana corrupt for keeping him incarcerated and presents paperwork in his video that he says supports his innocence.
I'm showing y'all the whole world how corrupted the state of Louisiana is. I'm an innocent man. Yes, in my past, I made mistakes. You know what I'm saying? I was making mistakes. I was just young. You know what I'm saying? But the system has failed a lot of people, not just me.
Now, Massey says he was facing life in prison and claims he left the jail because he
I'm one of the ones that was let out with JC. What I want to talk about today as far as why I was in Orleans Parish Jail. I was in custody for almost 8 months. I mean, 6 months, something like that. I attorney dropped from him right here. And she's not a child, she's an adult, a full adult. I was dating this woman. This is a legalized affidavit saying all allegations against me is false. All allegations against me is false. I was none of that during the timing of the case, which was November the 10th of 2024. Okay, so I was in Santana, right? And I was on a regular domestic charge, right? So I had to put a hold on me because I was on a domestic charge. So that being said, is that once that occurred, and the charges was refused or whatever, they shipped me to Orleans Parish where I had the charges was the death of a revealed and the domestic abuse battery of discrimination. So once I got in Orleans Parish jail, all right, I have from the district attorney's office, this woman who you see that I initially raped in another parish, and in Orleans Parish, it's the same woman. It's not different females, it's the same wrong woman, not a child, wrong woman. Okay, she did the same thing in Orleans Parish, right? Correct. I want to show you how the system is corrupted. Okay, she did this right, saying all allegations against me is false, and she was saying, you know, she let her know the truth that I never did this to her, I never hit her, I was nowhere around her. She got mad and thought that I was dealing with another woman. That's why she did it. She did it. You know what I'm saying? Another thing too, once I got into all those parish, I was there for like 1 month or something like that. Okay, a lot went on as that time progressed. Okay, if you was an innocent person and you know the judges and DA know that this person is saying that all the charges that you're on that you did not do, why was you still in jail? Louisiana had the highest incarceration rate in the world for putting black people away. Yes. At the end of the day, in my younger life, I'm not gonna lie, I was causing problems. I was young. My dad got killed when I was 7 years old. My mom had to raise 4 children by herself, so I had to find a way to try to help my mother. You feel what I'm saying? But as time went on, the person that I once was, I'm not that person today. That is not who I am. I have a 3-year-old son. I have an 18-year-old daughter that graduated yesterday, supposed to be. At the end of the day, and people don't understand that they see that I'm on the day because I have a heart. People that know me know that at the end of the day, I am a good person. So I'm asking for help from the world, from Meek Mills, Lil Wayne, Young Boy, Donald Trump. I'm asking for these people. I couldn't even get a lawyer. I couldn't even afford a lawyer to prove my innocence. Why I was in Albany's Parish jail. He said that I broke out. I didn't break out. I was let out. My name was Antoine Massey. The guy who said that I threatened him with a shank, the biggest guy. How could I threaten you with a shank? If you can't come around me, you're a witness. You cannot come on the till without a deputy being behind you. Because if they just let you on the till, you could be persuaded to bring drugs or anything like that nature. So how can I threaten you to kill you? Then why you didn't notify the people, the police, that if I did threaten you, you never did that. Like you flat out lied on me. You sternly flat out lied on me. And I wanted to let the media know that from the straight tattoos in my face and things of that nature, of course they want to believe Sterling. You know what I'm saying? I never told Sterling nothing. I'm willing to take a lie detector test and everything behind that. But that's another subject. On these parishes, one of the corruptest jails, that in Santana Parish is the corruptest jails in the state of Louisiana. Why was I even incarcerated? My woman said that this never happened. This is this woman's name. This is the charge, domestic abuse discrimination. This is all the shit in Santana. Why was I in Orleans Parish? Why was I even in jail? That's what I'm trying to show y'all. That's why I left the jail. They have a lot more brothers that's innocent, just like me, that's trying to prove they're innocent. That's why they ran. Jason Williams, the sheriff, Susan Hudson, these people are corrupted. These people was talking to Santana and telling Santana they going to send you behind type of stuff going on and they covered it up. They don't care about nothing. In the state of Louisiana, this is something that needs to go under a federal investigation. What's going on? How do you have any cases? Why Antoine Massey was in jail and the woman, the victim, the wrong woman, a child, the wrong woman stated that he never raped her, he never beat her, he was nobody oppressive. This is the affidavit on the tape right here. This is a drop form from the district attorney office. This woman did this. I didn't put this in this. We did it. So I'm asking please for help. Young boy, niggas, people, LBL, you know what I'm saying? People that been through the system that know it's corrupt. Lil Wayne, Donald Trump, please, I'm asking for help. You know what I'm saying? When I get back in custody, I'm asking y'all please to come help. You feel what I'm saying? I'm asking the world. Tell me that y'all know I'm not a rapper, man. I'm not none of that. None of that. I'm a good person. I am a father that want to be my children's life. You know what I'm saying? I want to let the other youth know that going down the route of trying to be a street person is not the route. That's what type of person I am. Yes, I was lying on him, made certain lied on all the guys that made me people for him to lie on. I'm not saying Sterling a bad guy, but why did you pick me to lie on, bro? It's bigger than Sterling. I don't know why they picked me for him to lie on, but I never did Sterling. Never I got done Sterling or hurt Sterling. He cannot come on and sit with me, but I would definitely be in trouble. My name is Antoine Madison. I'm asking for help. I was one of the ones that was let out of Orleans Parish Jail on May the 16th or May the 15th, 2025. So please, Lee Bills, Donald Trump, Lil Wayne, please help me. Lil Wayne, this is Big Antoine's son that's talking right now. I'm Lil Antoine. I was in your mama when she married Rat. I was the ring boy, Lil Wayne. Please help me, bro.
At Wayfair, they get pretty excited about furniture. Around here, it's not a patio, it's a patio. Oh, I love this chair.
Now we are also delving into the criminal histories of both men still on the run. We're learning how generational trauma may have impacted them after witnessing violent deaths in their families at a very early age.
WBH reporter Shay O'Connor joins us live in New Orleans East with that perspective this morning. Shay.
Yeah, we're here along Plum Orchard in New Orleans East, where we're told that this house, this yellow house that I'm looking behind me, is the house where Antoine Massey is said to have witnessed his father being shot to death in front of him.
He had to be about 6 or 7 years old, and far as I know, that he was supposedly in the house at the time the altercation took place when his father was actually murdered.
Antoine Massey's pastor, who's close friends with his dad, says it definitely impacted his life.
I don't see no way humanly possible that something of that nature capacity could have affected any of us, especially a kid. Now, we're concerned about Antoine because we know about Antoine. But what about the Antoines that are out there that we don't know about?
Over in the lower 94, Derek Rose was born dead in 1994. In his courthouse, Kid Rose was shot to execution style. It was ordered by University officer Ray Davis.
You're supposed to be able to trust the police. So now you don't trust them. Why would you? If you don't have right now.
Nobody's worried about that. That's one generation. There is another that two, there's another that three. And if you don't make sense out of it and recognize that at some point I got to change this, it's going to continue to the next generation.
Both men escaped the Orleans Parish Jail more than 2 weeks ago. Dr. Dana Andrus, a licensed family therapist, says the impact of generational trauma can lead to crime.
It's not so much the fact that it happens, and it's happening in the cities, that we've been taught that it's the correct way. And we've been taught that even if you believe that it's wrong, don't fight against it.
Mental health experts say about 60% of the youth in New Orleans deal with some form of PTSD, which is 4 times the national average.
We have to believe that with our collective consciousness, we can be larger than the situations, and we can turn it around. Turning it around is not gonna be the problem. It's believing that it can be turned.
You know, both families are urging the suspects to turn themselves in. The reward for each is up to $50,000. If you do know anything, you're being urged to reach out to law enforcement officers. Reporting from New Orleans, Ship, Hunter, WSU News.
This year, don't settle for second best. Meet Forest Salon Software, an all-in-one system at the heart of your business, with the industry's most innovative marketing suite, built by the pros, for the pros.
Marshals, FBI, LSP, of course, and Homeland Security in interview. So as Crime Stoppers, we have been, an active participant in gathering information for many years in New Orleans and in the surrounding parishes, actually for about 45 years. And this is a job that we take very seriously, and we also understand the sensitivity when someone reports someone that they know personally with regards to a crime. And since the escape, Crime Stoppers has fielded close to 700 tips with regards to the information on the 10 inmates. We actually, at the peak of this, had to add 4 additional lines to accommodate the calls to the call center, the Crime Stoppers call center. And I want you to know that we vetted every single tip, prioritize them for delivery to our lead agency, Louisiana State Police, and the other agency partners that stand with us. We know that we've been told tips assisted in 3 arrests of inmates. And the first tip that came in that led to arrest, actually the team, the incredible work by this team, that arrest came within 30 minutes of the tip. I can tell you that 3 tipsters will be paid rewards. And again, it's by the work that's been confirmed from the information the community provides from law enforcement. I can't thank enough.
Misidentified. A local father is told by the medical examiner's office that his missing daughter was dead, but months later he learns it's not true. News 10 NBC investigative reporter Jim Faluki explains what happened, how it happened, and what's being done to ensure it never happens again.
In 2021, Shanice Cruz dropped off her 2 children to family members, then disappeared.
I looked for 3 years, hard. I never did it more.
Her father, Mark, even hired a private investigator who tracked Shanice to Detroit and believed she became involved in a religious cult.
So we just went on with our life, just raising the kids because she was 28 years old when she left us. So, she's a grown woman.
But in April of last year, a Rochester police officer showed up at the door.
We tapped to affirm that their daughter Shanice Cruz has passed away. If you need to know anything else, go to the medical examiner.
So the family rushed to the Monroe County ME's office.
So when I went to go try to identify the body, and they was like, the daughter been here since February, and it was April then. And the state of her body, and you can't come in and see her.
The body was found in this wooded area along Hudson Avenue. The medical examiner's office told the family that they identified Shanice using dental records.
Mark had the body cremated and held a memorial service for his daughter. Months of grieving went by until one day he got this picture from a stranger on Facebook. It's Shanice in Detroit holding up a certificate dated November 2024. The family raced back to the medical examiner's office. They were asked if one of Shanice's children could provide comparable DNA.
They took the DNA test, submitted it, and it's not a match.
Shanice is not dead. Those remains are not her.
Who are these people that we have in the earth?
The ME's office asked for the ashes back, and here's when a bad situation gets even worse. The family mixed the remains with Shanice's mother's and put them in jewelry that they all wear.
Now we don't know who answered that. We mixed with her deceased mother.
The medical examiner refused my request for an interview, so I went straight to her boss.
How on earth did something like this happen?
Obviously, no family should ever have to go through what this family is going through right now. And my understanding of it was they did have the remains of someone that had a dental record that could be matched. And so they go through the process they go through, and they found what they thought was a match. And frankly, it was actually things that could take place and other factors there. So that's what's being investigated now.
They're looking into the possibility that someone used Shanice's identity and insurance information to get dental work done, which generated the dental record the ME used to identify the body.
Dang.
This is turning into a very unusual case for every professional we've talked to who's looked at this.
What changes have you asked for to try and ensure that this doesn't happen again?
So I've set a number of policies in place. Number one is that we do have a new contractor that's working on it. We've asked for a second opinion, particularly on this case, to get to the bottom of it. We decided to change the policy so that when a match is made between an individual and a dental record, we're also going to engage in DNA testing with family members to back up the work that was done with the dental.
Is it more expensive to do the DNA in addition to the dental records, or why hasn't that been the policy?
These are decisions that are determined by the medical examiner, and it's based on what they have in front of them.
That is of little comfort to the Cruz family.
I think they rushed to close a missing person case. Yeah, I truly believe that. I never think that this would happen, because if this would have never happened, I was gonna just be learning how to live without my daughter, thinking she'd be deceased. It's just devastating, man. I don't wish this on nobody.
But he's holding out hope that this at least gives him one more chance to reach his daughter.
I just want to know I love her, and she can come home anytime. We miss her. I got to find my daughter. I truly sleep at night,
Mark is hoping Shanice might see this story and come home if she can. Experts I've spoken with say it is not uncommon for people living on the streets or those who have been trafficked to share insurance information to get the medical care they might need. Deanna?
Yeah, as a parent, that's just heartbreaking. So Jim, just last year, our investigative team reported on this backlog of bodies at the MD's office. Now, because of that reporting, the county hired more people to help identify bodies faster. And this happened in the middle of all that, right?
Yeah, that's the irony in this whole thing. And it's something I spoke at length with the county executive about. I'm posting our extended interview about all of this at WHEC.com.
Well, I just can't get it from Mark's screen. Okay, Jen, one last question. If the body wasn't Shanice's, who was it?
That is a question, Deanna, that we may never have an answer to. It is considered a cold case, but there are DNA records despite the cremation. The county says the MD's office will continue to work on it.
Wow, what a story. Thank you so much.
What does a lifetime warranty mean? At Harbor Freight, it means confidence. All our most watched news in the Mid-South.
It's like every day. That's why I pray every day, because my son can't speak for himself. My son can't feed himself. And all they do is enter the bed and look at me, look at the TV, look at me.
Amanda's father is pleading for help after his teenage son was shot and is now paralyzed. The shooting happened in February in South Memphis.
Now, that 17-year-old has been at Regional 1 ever since, and that's where we find Alex 13's Carolyn Serve alive tonight. Carolyn, that's more than 3 months that this teen has been in a hospital bed, laying.
Yeah, absolutely right. Daryl and Darcy. So Davion Washington should be preparing to graduate from Hamilton High next week. Instead, since February 6th, he has been here at Regional 1 undergoing surgeries, going through complications and setbacks ever since he was shot. His father says 6 times in the back, leaving him paralyzed.
The incident that my son has incomplete quadriplegia. That means he can only move from here up, and he barely have any motor functions in his hands at all.
James Washington has been by his son Jamie on side since February, when he says the 17-year-old was shot in the back by his own cousin.
His life been completely altered. All of our lives.
Memphis police say the two were talking on Ball Avenue when
when 20-year-old Devontae Watson Matthews suddenly opened fire.
One of the bullets actually hit his C6 or C7 vertebrae and shattered.
Washington immediately flew in from Florida, where he currently lives, and hasn't gone back in order to care for Javion.
That's why I'm there every day, because my son can't speak for himself. My son can't feed himself. Everything within my fathers is saying, Lord, put me over there. Put me over there. Let him walk. Let him rejoice.
A Toledo man is sitting in the Lewis County Jail tonight accused of raping and murdering his daughter. Darnell Jones Ogletree is facing life in prison for the heinous crimes, but he was violent in the decades, years, and months leading up to his daughter Kimani's death. And for the vast majority of that time, avoided the bars that he's now behind. 11 investigates. Melissa Andrews has more on Jones's road to alleged murder.
We had her on this side, where that's facing us. We had her on that side right there, hanging on the balcony by the throat.
Angela Silva saw Darnell Jones unleash mayhem just a few doors down from her 4th Street home on July 29, 2019.
And all of a sudden, we started hearing things going over the balcony, like TVs and clothes, you name it. He was tossing it out the door and out the window onto the ground.
Jones choked his wife and held her over this balcony while Silva and other neighbors called 911.
He was this close to throwing her off that balcony.
Harold Glander confronted Jones.
And I yelled down there, pull her back over, and he almost dropped her. So I got myself down there and I looked at him. I said, if you don't pull her back, I'm coming up. He goes, come on. So I didn't take no steps. I was like, he almost went over.
Jones was found with a knife and pleaded no contest to domestic violence while other charges were dropped. He was sentenced to 60 days in CCNO but served no time, instead completing a substance abuse program. It's just one of many incidents in a pattern of havoc he unleashed starting at age 19, allowed by the light hand of the law. In 2011, he was cited for being intoxicated while screaming outside of his apartment, then resisting arrest. Just 3 months later, Jones and another man used a lighter and flammable liquid to set fire to this Toledo warehouse. He was charged with arson, pleading guilty to a lesser charge of attempted arson, and was sentenced to 4 years of probation. He had to complete treatment, get a job, and a GED. As a felon, he was never again allowed to have a gun. His next felony came in 2015 when he shot a gun at 807 Walnut. He pleaded no contest and was again given probation. He violated that probation in January of 2016 when he punched.
Serving with us here on Live Now from Fox, I'm your host, Christina Evans. We now want to shift gears, showing you a live look there in Dallas. We're shifting gears to a story that came from over the weekend just outside of Dallas, Texas. Officials say that an 18-year-old woman named Ava Moore was kayaking on a nearby Grapevine Lake there on Sunday. She was killed in a jet ski hit and run. The driver of the jet ski fled the scene with a male and a search ensued. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton later announced that those two suspects were arrested and we're now learning much more about who they are. I want to now turn our attention to Fox 4 Dallas reporter David Santandri. He's standing by to give us all of the details and the latest. David, thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. Just break down the very latest, some of those details that are just now coming out.
Yeah, thanks, Christina. Well, just within the past hour, we obtained an arrest warrant affidavit for 2 suspects. And the person who was driving that jet ski apparently was operating it at a very high rate of speed around swimmers and kayakers. And we've learned that Ava Moore, who was on her kayak, was actually trying to get away from that jet ski just because it appears it was being reckless on the lake. Then she was struck from behind The operator of that jet ski actually got away, but not before a photo was taken of her and shared with law enforcement, who have just blasted it across social media here in North Texas. The police came and they went to that house right there. Oak Cliff neighbors rattled Tuesday morning as law enforcement surrounded a home off Atlas Drive.
I don't really care what people do around me. I don't care if it's cops involved, SWAT involved, whatever. I just mind my own business.
But while trying to stay to himself, Angel Gonzalez could not help hear authorities demand two people, reportedly on the run from a deadly lake crash, surrender.
I mean, everything that our officers and all of the agencies have been doing is for Ava Moore.
18-year-old Ava Moore, a recent U.S. Air Force Academy preparatory school graduate, was killed after being struck by a jet ski while kayaking on Grapevine Lake Sunday.
And then I heard someone in the crowd say she hit someone, and so I automatically turned around to go back toward the water because I was concerned.
Lisa Sprayback there as a group pulled Moore from the lake.
You know, we just started life safety measures, checking her pulse at that time.
But Moore passed away, and the woman on the jet ski fled.
I turned around to look at the water, and I could see her and the passenger on the jet ski going away from the incident, and they were waving toward like their people, and you could tell they were trying to get away.
Someone shared this photo of the suspect with Texas game wardens, who released it to the public. It's shared thousands of times across social media. Tuesday morning, authorities identified her as Carolyn Alejandro Gonzalez Gonzalez. Attorney General Ken Paxton says she was in the country illegally, and we saw immigration officials on scene early Tuesday. Gonzalez was located inside this Oak Cliff home. A woman renting here, who does not want to show her face, says several rooms inside are rented. She claims she first saw Gonzalez Monday night with a man who lives there.
It seemed like her photo was so clear that she would just be caught very soon.
Gonzalez, now in custody for the death of Moore, according to game wardens. On top of that, Grapevine police say Mikel Coelho Perozo, also a reported illegal immigrant from Venezuela, will face additional charges for a vehicle crash while driving away from the lake with Gonzalez.
Where they crashed into two different vehicles and got out of the car and ran away.
As some Oak Cliff neighbors known, they were reportedly hiding next door. They say they would have called 911.
I would probably try to cut them off and tell them that they were here.
So Gonzalez is facing several charges, the most significant being manslaughter. Texas game wardens, who are the lead on this investigation, plan to have a press conference tomorrow morning where we are expected to hear more information about what led to this arrest and some possible new charges.
And David, of course, such a sad story. I have to ask you before I let you go, have you heard from Ava's family at all? Have they spoken out in the midst of any of this?
So her family has released a brief statement, just, thanking people for their prayers. Actually even said that they are giving out some prayers to everyone involved, that also being the suspects. So you don't always see that. We did have an opportunity yesterday to interview one of Ava's former basketball coaches, who said she was just a shining star. She expected her to really climb the ranks in the military once she officially got in, and just had nothing but positive things to say about her.
Being there with Fox 4 in Dallas, giving us an update on this very sad story, David Contentory. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, wanted to bring that to you there on live now from Fox. And just to wrap up what we heard and learned there in this story, I'm going to put this up on the screen as well. These were some of those tweets that were put out by the Fox 4 reporter David Contentory.
And that's Elon Musk speaking out from the Oval Office today with President Trump by his side. Musk is stepping away from his work in Washington to concentrate on his companies. This comes as a New York Times expose claims that Musk's drug use was more intense than anyone ever knew.
President Trump gave tribute to First Buddy Elon Musk today, as the world's richest man said farewell to the White House.
That's it. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Musk's exit from Trump world comes as the jaw-dropping New York Times report claims he was taking a powerful cocktail of drugs while he was on the campaign trail. The Times says it's unclear whether Musk was taking drugs when he became a fixture at the White House
make them act in ways that are not typical for them.
There is a New York Times report today that accuses you of blurring the line.
When a reporter tried to ask Musk about the Times report today, he hit back.
New York Times said the same publication that's going to Pulitzer Prize for false reporting on the Russia gate. That New York Times, let's move on.
And what's with the shiner on his right eye? He got it roughhousing with little legs.
I said that.
Decide to lead. Enroll in ROTC to become an Army officer.
The no hidden fee cash out card.
And so I'm like, oh, here's a young retard Hitler. If someone is trying to start a new worldwide crisis,
On March 10th, 2020, officers with the Idaho Falls Police Department are called to a home after one of the residents witnesses a bone-chilling crime. As investigators plunge into a case brimming with appalling discoveries and a suspect on the run, they encounter a twisted tale of cultish accusations and mental disorders. However, nothing prepares them for the twisted motive they will uncover at the end of this heinous crime. On a chilly evening, 31-year-old Aaron makes an urgent 911.
it was the town's. There's a man in the Alabama State Prison who is in this condition. Here, look at it. You see that? You see that, right? That's not some prisoner of war. This is a man inside of an Alabama State Prison. Here's what he looked like before. Okay? I'm going to give you the background to this insanity. A South Alabama woman is pleading for help after she received photos of her brother showing him in dire medical distress.
Transform your water and live hydrated. Care more, live more with Liquid IV.
There's a man in the Alabama State Prison who is in this condition. Here it is. Look at it. You see that? You see that, right? That's not some prisoner of war. This is a man inside of an Alabama State Prison. Here's what he looked like before. Okay? I'm going to give you the background to this insanity. A South Alabama woman is pleading for help after she received photos of her brother showing him in dire medical distress in a state prison. 32-year-old Daniel Bond, looking well enough, which was dated July 24th. He's currently an inmate at Elmore Correctional Facility. He began serving a 20-year sentence in 2019 for multiple convictions for burglary and unlawful breaking and entering a vehicle. He was up for parole in June, but was denied. He would be eligible again for parole consideration June of 2027. Now let's go back to these other pictures. This was on September 2nd, unable to sit up. Obviously, malnourished. His eyes almost rolling up into the back of his head. His sister, Cassie, detailed in Facebook Wednesday horrific decline of her brother's health after seeing 2 photos of him this week with the message, "Get help. Get help." This was on just 2 days ago. This was September 21st. Do you see this? His to look at, I know. I
Damn.
promise you it's hard for him to go through. It's hard for the family to know this is happening. Now, I'm highlighting this story because for some reason, this state prison has some kind of control over the local media in Alabama, but they do not control me. Cassie said in her Facebook post, let's do this, put this picture back up. The sister said in her Facebook post, he did not walk. He did not stand. He is weak. He is vulnerable. She is begging for a well-fed check and medical intervention for her brother. Meanwhile, in updates since the original post, Cassie stated yesterday, Elmore Correctional Facility. Y'all violating so many of my brother's rights as a human. How y'all remove me off my brother's contact info and his visitation list, which means she can no longer visit her brother. Y'all gonna get what's coming to y'all if I don't care if it takes my last breath. I can no longer call and check the status of my brother because they have removed me. See, in order to visit someone inside of that prison, you must be on what's called an approved visitation list. She was on that list until this happened. All of a sudden, she's no longer on the approved visitation list. Local outlet WRBL has been stonewalled. Local outlet WRBL reached out to the Alabama Department of Corrections early Thursday morning to get a comment. We were told to email media relations, which we did. A nameless person responded quickly at 9:31 Thursday morning saying, we are checking into it. Hours later, we haven't heard anything back. We sent a follow-up email Thursday afternoon. When we pushed to speak with someone in person, we were told to have a blessed day and hung up on. The call back was never answered. WRBL also reached out to the Elmore Correctional Facility after being transferred a few times to the phone, then disconnected. WRBL News tried to call again Thursday afternoon, but the phone was never answered. Meanwhile, AL.com received the following. The Alabama Department of Corrections understands there is concern about the welfare of inmate Costello DeMarcus Bond. The ADOC wrote in an email to AL.com, another media outlet. They said, I quote, he is assigned to the Elmore Correctional Facility, but he is housed at Station Medical Observation Unit. ADOC's Office of Health Services has fully investigated the situation from a clinical perspective, and he has been offered all necessary treatment for his condition. Also, he has been in touch with his family to update them on his situation. That is what they said on record. That is what they said. Now, they did not respond to the local media. They did not provide this information to members of the press that tried to push and get information about this particular story. As of today, the sister posted, there is no update regarding my brother. His family has still not heard from him. We don't know where he is located or if he has received any type of medical help. We are in the process of getting him in motion to fight for his rights as a human. The institution, Elmore Correctional Facility, that he is placed in is not receiving calls from the public or his family. They have stated they do not want to talk to the Bond family. We are asking for medical help, not a release. Now, I'm going to say this. I have a private investigator and an attorney headed to that prison this weekend. Now, these cats are not to be played with. If you decide, I'm talking directly to the prison director, if you decide to play games with them, the public relations and legal nightmare coming to you will be well earned. We need to know that Mr. Bond is okay. We need to know that he is receiving the medical attention he obviously needs. And the family needs to be assured of your efforts to make sure this human being receives a human experience while being recovered. Tango Lawyer. The GoFundMe, I present that to you right here. This is for Costello-Vines Lawyer. Now let me shift gears. Who are the administrators of the Elmore prison? Put them on. Look at that. The administrators of Elmore are Rolanda Calloway, and Jeffrey Ball. They are the administrators. John Ham, the ADOC commissioner. Let's expose him. This is John Ham, Alabama Department of Correction. Even though the public and media have been stonewalled, here's the contact info for Elmore and for the Alabama Department of Correction. Let's put it out. Elmore Correctional Facility, 3520 Marion Spillway Road, Elmore, Alabama, 36025. The phone number, 334-567-1460. Alabama Department of Correction, 30 South Ripley Street, P.O. Box 3015011, Montgomery, Alabama, 36130. You can also call 1-855-WE-ARE-ADOC. Okay? Now, details are sketchy. I believe the system. I do not believe you. I do not believe the Department of Corrections. I do not believe the administrators of the prison. I do not believe the emails that you have sent. I believe the system. Just because someone is serving a prison sentence does not mean they have shed their humanity. Does not mean they deserve what is happening to this person. This is torture. Did you see him? You know, a lot of people will say, we're praying for the guy. And I am. I'm a man of faith. I hope somebody in the family, please get in touch with me, however you can, so I can connect you to the private investigator and the attorney who I'm already set on this situation. Please make contact with us at Indisputable. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many layers to this. I mean, first and foremost, our prison system was built, like, just to be clear, like, the foundation of our prison system is dehumanized. It was built on the idea of stripping white people's humanity. It was built on the idea of replacement for just outright slavery. That was the whole concept behind the foundation of building a prison system, and it maintains that mentality to this day. And there's so many people that are willing to put white people up who are in prison. But, like, think about it, right? Like, there are tons of people in prison for, like, nonviolent drug offenses. We throw people in prison in this country for basically anything. We have the highest incarceration rate in the world, right? People who are, like, just regular, kind, and decent people, right, can get swept up and put into it. And, like, it's just really telling. It's just really telling because there's a huge divide, right? Like, if you know anybody or if you have family that have ever either been to prison or potentially faced going to prison, right? Then like, you understand and you see this and you're like, oh my God, that almost happened to somebody I love. That could happen to somebody that I love. And, you know, for the folks that are like privileged enough to, I guess, have never had to worry about anything like that, it's just like, it's just really, really like telling how like willing they are to be so dehumanizing and just to like completely disregard people. And it's just really, really infuriating. Because like, what's the whole idea? What do we want from the criminal justice system? We want to prevent violence, right? That's what we want to keep our community safe. We want to prevent harm, right? But right now, our prison system creates far more harm than it prevents. Just to be very clear, there's way more harm that is coming from our prison system than if overnight you all of a sudden didn't have one. Now, nobody's calling for overnight no more prisons, but at the end of the day, we need a fundamental change. We need to dig up the roots of our system and completely replace it.
Yeah, very well said. And once again, the family, please make sure to try to get in touch with me, okay? And I'm not letting the damn thing go. I'm not letting this go.
we cherish. Family dinners, road trips, celebration. But a stroke could take you away from those moments. The good news? Up to 80% of strokes may be prevented. Visit stroke.org and be there for the moments that matter most.
Yeah, I can take that. We just got a request from one of our other teams, which specializes in commercial trucking. They believe they've identified a vehicle that's already made it through and is loaded in the cargo section with ties. So we're gonna get out of the road and give them a hand. Our primary concern is that we can't let these drugs hit the street. I just have to be on down and cross them at the intersection. I got it. Okay, I got him. Truck ran down to 805 North, which runs the entire west coast. Anybody want about this time? Alright, let's stand right here. That was a hard last minute change. What's up next? Not a normal problem. Don't have a destination for it yet. It just makes it problematic. So we see a last minute exit onto another feeder highway that should have split off from the 5. But in actuality, it comes right back onto the 5. My guess is that was some form of counter surveillance. That just heightens our suspicions that the information that we've developed is